YouTube is coming up now, and we are live on Joel Jamal's Facebook page as well. So we are live and go. Welcome everybody back to an impromptu Carter's Corner, not on 89.7 FM. So we are here.
What's happened? Is this breaking news? I mean, we're live. This is going to have obvious live technical difficulties. But what's happened since yesterday?
Hilarious. So obviously Channel 7 has done a massive hit piece. I would like to take credit for this. I'd like to say it's on myself, so Carter's Corner, but I think it was more of an attack on a small community radio station totally run by volunteers. No one at the station has ever been actually paid. So Jeff Parry did an exclusive yesterday, 6 p.m, first right off the bat, massive exclusive. And so they decided to attack the Honourable Charles Smith from the West Australia Party and our friend who's joined us today, Joel Jamal. So it's actually been really quite funny. So because I didn't want to get outdressed, I actually suited up for Joel. So yeah, he can't see my suit, but anyway. So we to confirm, because there is a rumour floating out there that we have been permanently deplatformed. Right. So the board has had a meeting without us, and they have decided to permanently, I think the word they used was permanently suspend Carter's Corner from 89.7 FM for a breach of community standards.
Okay. So now, is this a typical case of trial by media?
So whenever I do these sort of things, I try to look at it from both sides. So personally, I personally feel, yes, it is a trial by media. But
what do we have here?
I just want to quickly jump back into that one, because you can't just say, is this trial by media? Because effectively it is, but you've got to look at it from 89.7's perspective. I actually don't blame them for their decision. If I was a board and they've got you got to remember, community stations like this have really, really, really limited funds. And what was happening, Jeff Parry was going around to each of the local councils that do sponsor the station and putting immense pressure on them. What I'd really, really love to know, and I've got no basis for this, but has there been some sort of financial incentive offered to these stations to take these complaints as far as they have? So obviously I don't know if that's happened or not. I haven't been involved in these conversations, but have Channel 7 and Jeff Parry offered certain deals or promotions or things like that in the way to support these local councils to put pressure on 89.7 to try and force us off the air? Because let's be honest, what was said, it wasn't actually that bad.
Well, obviously what was said wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
The context that it was put in and the implication, like implying that you guys are sleazy radio show, feminists attacking an Indigenous reporter. All these things, are they factual, or do you think they were framed in a set way to deplatform your radio show?
There were certain aspects of the interview that were definitely slanderous. I'm a little bit concerned on how much I can actually say on this one, because there could potentially be a lawsuit against Channel 7. And obviously Channel 7 loves trial by media. They've done it with the Dr. Natalia Nand case, where they actually took her license because of reporting in the media. There's so many situations where the media has dictated an outcome of a case. I don't want to give any more ammunition to a potentially, and this isn't my case. This isn't me taking action against station or taking action against Channel 7. We even invited Jeff Parry multiple times to come onto the show. We've invited, he never gave me his last name, but he said Ben from Channel 7. So I'm thinking this is Ben Downey. We've invited him to the show as well, but he claimed to be superior. So he said the station was beneath Channel 7. So I asked him, is he superior to Carter's Corner and myself? And he said, oh, no. So then I turned around and asked him, is he a white supremacist? Because he considers himself superior to someone else. And he said no. So he's denying being a white supremacist. We need to
just quickly, before we cross over to Joel, I was driving to get here today, and there was a bus in front of me in Perth that says an ad for the two anchors that were on the news report yesterday.
Yes.
And they've got 3 lines next to their name in Channel 7. It says, the facts, issues and the answers.
I'm sorry.
Do you think that report actually covered the facts, given that the first introduction from there?
It covered the facts, but they made up the facts.
Right. Let's play the report.
So this is going
so
to
that
be...
people can actually get a feel for what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, let's grab this one and let's see if I can
people to look
drag
closely at the
this.
introduction of what they're saying that the Member of Parliament said.
So we've got it right here. Let's go to full screen and let's take... Are we going to get a play or are we going to get an ad? Come on.
Are you getting an ad?
I've got no sound on my side. Dwayne, can you just double check we've got sound on that one?
Yeah, there's no sound.
There's no sound on it. So for those who can lip read, I can't. But pretty much in the opening scene, Rick and Susanna Carr were saying that the Honourable Charles Smith were making some very poor comments. I can't remember the exact wording, so they'll probably try and use this for evidence later on.
Right.
They made some very interesting comments that Charles was making comments about Alan Joyce. And I don't even think Charles was on that show. So the comments that they're talking about...
Something you said.
Is actually what I said.
Completely different and not even on air.
So a couple of them were on air, so I won't disagree with that. The reason I made those comments was because Alan Joyce had just fired 3,000 people before. Hey, Jolene, no, your camera's gone down.
Did you want me to show everyone exactly what the report was? Because I can.
If you've got it there, that would be awesome. So Joel's just pulled that one up. So this is a bit of, like I said, for the people listening, this is a bit impromptu.
And live.
Tech issues and all. And we're not in the studio, so a lot of the equipment we normally use, we do not have access to anymore because due to the pressure from Channel 7, 89.7 has literally, I don't want to use the banned word because I don't know if we're actually allowed to use, the platform does. We can't use the equipment. So,
how do you feel about that personally? I mean, this was a personal attack, obviously, by that reporter, by
Jeff Parry. See, this is the thing I find really interesting. So, the first time I ever met Jeff was actually at Andrea Takagi's press conference. My team got contacted and asked if we could share out her press release. And so the one that Jeff has quoted out that press conference where he literally attacked me out the press conference in front of everyone. And even the ABC said, like, it was surprising his behaviour. Like, you just don't do that. And so he interrupted a press conference to ask Andrea what her relationship was to me. Because what happened is when it got forwarded out, the system was still new, so everything was attached to my email address. So it was literally forward Andrea Takagi's press release or something along those lines. And it came from my email address. And so the first time I met her was as she was walking down the stairs at Parliament House, and that was it. So Jeff interrupted everything, started making all these allegations against me live at a press conference and tried to take Andrea's press conference and try to make it about me, which apparently in media realms, that is extremely bad manners, very, very bad, and it shouldn't be done. So I caught him out, and he didn't realise that there was actual people streaming that live. So WAMN News, Ivan was streaming it live. He didn't know. He got a little bit of a huffy over it, but you know what? That's up to him. I'm a very, very firm believer of free speech.
Yeah.
And if he wants to have a crack at me in public, hey, go to it. He makes himself look like a fool.
And so since then, he's come after you. He's basically attacked you to make sure that he deplatforms your radio show.
Yeah.
He's put allegations out there, in the words of his anchors, about an MP, which the MP didn't actually say.
Yeah. So, again, they've got facts, but they made those facts up. Or I have a feeling that Rick and Sue actually didn't know what was going on. I have a feeling that someone's written the script for them and they've just, I think it's called a teletext. They've just read the line. They have no idea what's actually going on. There we go.
Yeah, I'll just show it to you guys. So for those tuning in right now, this is basically the report that came out at 6 o'clock last night at Channel 7 Perth, and I think you'll find it quite enlightening.
So, awesome.
Good evening. A member of WA's Parliament is under fire for racist and sexist rants on a radio broadcast partly funded by ratepayers.
West Australian Party MP Charles Smith made offensive remarks about the Qantas boss and a female journalist.
Lies.
Yes, has this exclusive report.
So, can you just pause it there for us?
Sleaze
John?
Radio.
Obviously, we're on Sleaze Radio. I love that one. So let's unpack this. So first of all, racist and sexist remarks. At no point, by my recollection, at no point did Charles ever say anything about race of anyone on this show at all during the one.
Not
so
at all.
the comments that they're saying were sexist was he said he's a firm believer in old school values. I think that's what he used, old school. I'll have to double check that one. But he was saying that he believes that one of the parents should be going out and working hard, make sure that the family's got enough funds to survive. And then the other partner, which is back in those days was generally the wife, would stay home, would care for the family, and would be like the housekeeper. So I don't know how that's sexist, because back in the 50s, that's what it was. Like, that was the societal norm.
Did he say that on this show?
So that was, I'm pretty sure he said that on my show during one of the segments. So, but at no point did he bring up anyone's race or religion in the show.
Sure.
So that is
it fact? Is it truth?
Fake news.
Is it the answers?
So in the, because we can see the Make America Great Again hat in the background there, this is fake news. So it's Channel 7, the CNN of WA.
And what gives them the right to do the whole trial by media and say that this show should be suspended and actually tell the board what to be doing?
So I talk to Charles a lot. We talk. I consider ourselves friends outside of politics. Before we started doing all this, when we need some like heavy hitters for the show, when we very, very first started, he was awesome. He came on board. Yeah, I'll give you my time, and he was a sitting member of Parliament at the time. So, absolute legend for a couple of weeks more.
Yeah.
So he's been an absolute legend, a massive support for the show, the station. He's just been awesome. And that, like a lot of the politicians that have been on the show, and you got to remember this. Not just Charles has been on the show. We've had the Nationals deputy leader on the show. We've had Malcolm Roberts from One Nation on the show. He did a call-in. We've had multiple Liberal candidates on the show. We've had all these different politicians. Aaron Stonehouse is another one. Liberal Democrats have been on the show. Even we've had the Greens. We had... And also community, don't forget, there's a lot of really influential community groups have been on the show as well. We've had the founder of the Medical Cannabis Research Australia come onto the show. You know, these people are doing fantastic things in the community, and they deserve a platform to be able to talk about it. Yeah. When was the last time Medical Cannabis Research Association was on a platform, like the mainstream media or anything like that? They've never been on there.
That's the thing about community TV or radio, is it gives a voice to the community. Joel, we'll switch over to you. What's your view on this?
Specifically, the comments about Charles?
Well, I mean, even this, just overall, what do you think about this sleazy reporting on news?
Oh, yeah. On me specifically. Well, look, I'll start with the radio show, because I think you guys are the ones that sort of been hit hardest. I mean, the fact that they're going after sponsors and funding for the show is like, okay, I see what you're doing here, because I've seen it 1,000 times before in Australia, in America. What happened with Alan Jones? Did we forget about how he got cancelled for saying Jacinta Ardern put a sock in it? Now, was the comment out of place? Absolutely, but I also believe in free speech, and I believe that if a show wants to cancel someone because of their sponsors are pulling out, okay, so be it. But we need to recognise that this is the society we live in, that there is no free speech, and that there are consequences for your actions. But what they are doing is punching down. That's what I see. I don't like the fact that Channel 7 is punching down. I have that rule. You don't see me punching down at smaller YouTubers or people on social media. Yet here we are with Channel 7 punching down at a local show that last I checked got 70,000 views on this particular episode, people tuning in. Not quite a lot for a state of 500,000 people. Now, this is the problem, though. Are they going after the competition because, you're covering issues, or that they want to steal a bit of your audience? I don't know. I'm not sure at all, and I don't want to impugn their thoughts on that. But the biggest concern of this issue is that they're punching down when they could be punching up. What have we looked at that's been happening this week? We've been seeing a bunch of real sexism sort of going on in the parliament that are allegations still. Rather than spending more time on that, they were really scraping the bottom of the barrel and making comments about a 24-year-old on a radio podcast that went for, they did a little segment, 2.5 minutes, was it? 2 minutes, 14 seconds. I've got it right here. They managed to find little clips of a 3-hour broadcast. Well done. Well done. You found 3 comments. There were 3 comments that they sort of... What was that?
The producer chimed in with it must have been a slow news day.
I mean, given that we've got emergency code yellow for our emergency hospitals here, hospitals are not taking in new patients, they couldn't cover something like that, and they come after a community radio show.
Well, the thing that really is curious to me, most of the shows, once you take the music and the ads out, they're about 2 hours, 2 minutes, 2 hours, 20 minutes. They've got, I've seen footage from 3 or 4 different shows. So you're looking at 8 or 9 hours worth of footage that someone at Channel 9, Channel 7 has sat there and has gone through and it's like, oh, we might be able to use that. We might be able to use that. We'll edit this bit out. We'll do this one. We can zoom in on this one. Like, how many man hours has Channel 7 wasted when they could have been reporting on real issues? And instead they're reporting on, literally, on my Facebook, I think I've got 600 followers or something. Like let's be honest, Carter's Corner is a tiny, tiny, tiny segment. And as far as I know, in WA, we are the only ones that are calling the Labor government, the Liberal government, the Greens, pretty much all of our politicians to account. And it's we've been asked how can we keep hitting up on Labor, and we don't. We were calling Zach Kirkup spineless because he wouldn't stand up to the Labor Party.
He wasn't doing the job of an opposition leader.
He was non-existent. So we called him out on it. We've called out the Greens on trying to damage the environment, the economy to save the environment, which is fine. They're allowed to say that, but we're also allowed to say that we think that's not the right way to do it.
That's the whole idea of freedom of speech.
We actually spoke to a couple of the Green supporters out the Hyde Park Fair, and there was a couple of candidates there as well. And the thing is, to save the environment, you don't have to destroy the economy to do it. There's a financial way to do it where you can actually make money and do the right things. You don't need to become a socialist country. You don't need to destroy the economy to save the environment. It's they can work hand in hand. There's no reason why they can't. But so we do call all parties into account.
We actually need somebody to hold the media accountable.
Yep, and
for misinformation, for going out and attacking people, even small radio community shows, and saying misinformation to just get them off the air.
Now, the biggest thing is, especially with this opening scene on this one, this is not the first time they've had a crack at people who are, not just Charles, but people who are involved with the show. Comes with the people that help us have also been involved in organising the COVID protests, the freedom protests and all that sort of stuff. So we encourage people to get out in the community and do things like that. If that's what they believe in, then go help these people out because they need all the help they can get. Let's be honest here.
They won't give them any airtime.
So there was a protest out Parliament House. The West Australian did an article on it. They took a photo, and you can actually see in the photo people walking around carrying speakers and setting up and all this sort of stuff. And they said, less than 40 people attended this protest. And it's like, well, you took a photo an hour and a half before the event actually started. So this is not the first time that Seven West Media has actually taken a swipe at people who have opposing views to Seven West Media and the Labor Party. And so I think part of that started it. But I think the other thing is we're starting to manually calculate how much Seven West Media is potentially earning from these COVID lockdowns and everything else, especially when you start talking about the East Perth power plant, which is they're planning. Apparently, Charlie was telling me the paperwork is actually now signed and delivered. So they've sold $106 million block of land after $66 million has been spent to decontaminate the land.
By taxpayers' money
for $1. Like, hell, I'll give you $2. Like, and so that went
to none other than the people that own Channel 7, right?
Channel 7. Now, let's have a look at how much money this COVID emergency, which should have ended, in my opinion, like 6 months ago. It should have been closed, done and dusted by now. How much extra money are they funneling into Channel 7 for all the additional advertising, press releases, news coverages and all that? So, like, have we hit $1 billion yet? Like, it's just insane.
When will it stop, is what you're saying, I
Yeah.
guess.
So, and the people who are paying for it, because it's money coming from the Labor government.
So perhaps back to Joel's point about them punching down.
Yep.
Is it because you're stating and interviewing people that have a different narrative to what they want to spin?
I don't think that we have a different narrative.
Not you, but the people you're interviewing on your show.
Exactly. So the people that are getting these interviews on the show, we're reaching out to so many people. I've lost count of how many emails or requests for interviews go out each week. And a vast majority of these people are people that wouldn't normally get this opportunity. They wouldn't get airtime. They wouldn't even get like into the newspaper. So one of our early shows, the South Sudanese community was getting a very, very bad rap over in Melbourne. There was like, gang violence and all this sort of stuff. So we actually invited the president and the deputy chairperson from the South Sudanese Association of West Australia to actually come onto our show and say, you know what, this is what's really going on. This is the difference between Melbourne and Perth. This is the real story. So we give everyone a chance, and
that's what the media should be doing.
Spot on.
Is actually giving people a chance to have a voice.
Spot on.
To air what's happening.
Yeah.
Not to make it up.
Correct.
Not to take. Answers, which is what they're claiming on their advertising on billboards and on the back of buses.
Now, one of the things I'd really, really, really love to see, and I don't know if it will happen or not, but the first time Jeff had a crack at me at Andrea Takaji's press conference, we invited him onto the show, and his response was, "Your show's crap, I'm not going on it." And then he storms away and physically shaking. He looked like he was that angry about it. And that's the first time. I don't know. I honestly thought maybe he was in love with me.
Because you're taller than him. Maybe he's got short man syndrome. Is that the issue?
I'm 6'3", so there's
he definitely envies Joel's dress sense.
Oh, mate.
Maybe envies your height.
Joel is sharp. Like, the first time I saw one of Joel's video clips, I was like, wow, your tie with all the patterns on it, like the blue one, I thought that's a nice tie. I like that tie. But I don't think he has height envy or short man syndrome or whatever you want to call it.
This is just a comical effect. These aren't facts. Whereas at least we can do that. We can call it when it's not fact. But Channel 7 isn't.
The thing I'm a little bit worried about, and let's be honest here, the Carter's Corner, the show is a bit of a piss take on the media. It always has been. It's been for their comedy value. I think it's hilarious. Like, when I'm going back... Yeah, when I go back and I edit some of the videos for the snippets on YouTube and Facebook, like I'm quite sitting there giggling to myself. I think some of the jokes in there are hilarious.
Well,
and
you need a bit of humour in this day and age. If you took everything seriously, it's just dangerous.
I don't think Jeff has a sense of humour, and that's where I've got to be careful with this, because if I say something in jest, he's like, that's and then he'll run off to his bosses and say, I need to suppress this guy.
Where's he going to get fired from next?
There's one solution to this, Travis. I think we should honestly just send him another one of my ties. I think that's just what we're going to do. It's in the blue tie. I think that'll solve everything.
I think it'll look good on him, because when he did this one, he was actually wearing. This is the first time I've seen him with a tie. So maybe we should send him a tie with a card. With love from Carter's Corner. Maybe we'll go down to embroidery and we'll just get a really big, like one of those clown ties, and we'll embroider Carter's Corner onto it.
We'll try a whole burning thing.
Yeah. We haven't actually mentioned the actual quotes that were used on me that that they thought were controversial. But I did want to somewhat keep this succinct, though. And I've got some good news on this first one. So the one they sort of finished on with me was that you cannot say that you prefer your women waxed or shaved. You can't say that. Well, funnily enough, today I can announce that I have a new sponsor for the Arc, which is my weekly show. It is a waxing company. It is a waxing company in Melbourne, and they said, "Thank you, Joel. This is great for the business." So I'm doing my part for the economy. What are they doing? I'm helping to build a company, a small business, and here they are just tearing it down. I'm like, what do you guys want me to do? You are destroying the economy when you tell people don't wax. I'm like, guys, these are jobs. It's like, don't pick up that piece of rubbish. That's a garbage man's job. That you know, it's taking his job away. Now this is the thing. That was the first comment. The second comment, which was not something I realized in the moment, was that there was this article we were dissecting, which was about a woman. She was talking with her husband about trying the vegan diet for a little bit. Correct me where I'm wrong. And he said, I don't want to do that. I'm a man. I need meats, from a steak and stuff like that. And that's what sort of triggered her. Then she sort of started writing from there. Now, it turns out she's actually Aboriginal. And one of the points I made was that, who are you to tell people that they cannot eat meat? I mean, we've had indigenous tribes around the world eating it for tens of thousands of years. I think in Australia we say 60,000 years our Aboriginals have been around. And, if my studies of religion is correct, which is something I studied, according to Aboriginal traditions, you cannot say that, you cannot rule on this sort of stuff unless you're an elder of the tribe. And even if this writer is an elder of the tribe, which is highly unlikely, it's not easy to earn that position, I'm certain she's not an elder of all 500 tribes in Australia, Aboriginal groups. Now, so that it basically throws that argument out the window. And I think I can't remember what the third phrase was that I basically said, but we were defining what we like. We were defining what masculinity was. That was the context of the second hour, and then we followed that up with what we classified as femininity, and what we like to see in a woman. And the fact that they did this 2-minute segment on 3 hours worth of content is amazing. At one point in the conversation, I said, us guys need to get our stuff together because the impact of the fatherlessness rate on society is detrimental, and we can see the impacts of it. And it lacked nuance. I'll put it that way. There was no professionalism. There was no background research. They did not reach out to me for a comment, and it was very unprofessional how they did it. And I don't respect how they did it at all.
You're totally right. And the one main point that I'd like to speak to about what you're saying here about men being attacked. How many men in Australia are affected by depression, mental health, male suicide? Could this be because of this society of attack on men, taking things out of context, beating them up, instead of actually working together and giving men a chance to have a voice?
Well, there's actually stats on this. So the census, I think it was the census, number one cause of men between the ages of 14 and 55 is male suicide. Right. So this is a clear indication that, especially young men, and this is the most dangerous thing, young men these days are going through a process where they genuinely need help and they're not getting it. So whether it's that they're too scared because they'll get demonized or whatever is happening. So they're not getting the help. The attacks are absolutely relentless. I'm a little bit lucky because I've gotten an amazing family behind me. They support me 100% on this one. My mum laughed when she saw the article and she was like, you've got to be careful. Like, they'll take everything. And it's like, well, what are they going to take? Like, come on, I've got a $2,000 Forester. Like, go take it. So But the amount of support I'm receiving is phenomenal. But there's so many people. I do a lot of non-for-profit work, and because I've got quite a bit of time, so that's why I do it. And the amount of guys, I'm taking 60, 70, 80 phone calls a day, and a lot of those phone calls are calls for help. Like they're saying, like, what do I do? What do I do? I haven't seen my kids for 6 years. I haven't done this. My work is pressuring me on this. So a lot of these people, they're coming to me for help because, like Jeff Parry said, I was a past candidate, so my knowledge on the political side of things, there's a vast majority of these issues are actual political issues. We need to bring them up. And so people reach out to me because there's nothing else out there. And it's one of our guests was saying that there's a wealth of help for men out there, but it's only after they do something criminal that the help is there. Right. If they want help prior to doing that, there's absolutely nothing out there. Now, this is something the political party I ran for copped a lot of grief for their stance on refugees and a whole heap of other stuff. I'm not doing sugarcoat. I did run as One Nation. I was One Nation candidate for the electorate of Brand during the 2019 election. I didn't run in the state election because of some other stuff. But what happened is, and I have to say, throw out a massive thank you to the, I think it's the Queensland Arabic Women's Association. They are the only group of people that have a men's domestic violence shelter in all of Australia. So, and the thing is
wow.
There's one in all of Australia. So this is for amazing. Male victims of domestic violence. So the thing is that I help so many people call me out and go, what do I do? My ex-wife has just hit me with a frying pan. I've been hit with an iron. I've had a glass hit over my head while I was asleep. So the stats actually state about 40% of men are victims of domestic violence. So, and we're not just talking like women are being up. This is also like same-sex married couples, like a male beating up a male partner. So it happens a lot. And for this level of discrimination against men, it's no wonder that the suicide rates are absolutely through the roof, and it's not acceptable. And so every time there's a group that's trying to call this out, like there's a group in Australia called FACRA, Family Children's Rights Australia. We've had them on our show before. The amount of grief I actually had from that show, one of our actual co-chairs, his position within the station got removed purely because he dared to stand up for men. So this is not the first time the station has taken this sort of stance. This is not the first time that different groups have been attacked from coming onto our show because we dare talk about things that other stations are too scared to talk about.
So let's say, because of your involvement, because I wasn't on that show.
Yeah, probably lucky.
But here I am getting stuck into it right now.
Yeah.
So the idea is, with all your knowledge of what's been happening, men being beaten up, you've probably looked at the article and thought, this is a good article to pick apart with Joel, with Charles, on your show. Now, we have it on good authority from speaking to friends of the author that are also in the media, that she may have been misquoted. Or at least taken out of context by that forum of the West Australian paper.
One thing I really want to do this because, especially on the show, we've always had a stance that if we make comments about one person, we would be allowed to have them. So, prime example, preference deals in WA election. Rod Caddies went back on his deal with Charles, the Health Australia Party, and there was a whole heap of other parties as well. So we reached out to Rod Caddies, president of One Nation, and said, hey, would you like to respond? And he came onto the show. So
I gave him that.
And I have to say, that was a really good interview. Like, he did really well. I was quite impressed, and I understood why he did what he did. Still don't agree with it, but I think I understood what he did. So the problem is, we've been trying to get, I think her name was Ragni, the author of this article. Yeah. I've actually been trying to reach out to her. So thankfully, you knew the friends of a friend. So hopefully the request for her to come out onto the show and defend her position, hey, more than welcome to have her on. We've had a few people from the Aboriginal community on the show. We had an absolute phenomenal singer, Josie Alec, on the show when she came in with the Grains. Right. God, that woman can sing. Like, I'm still blown away with it. Like, just thinking about it, I get goosebumps. Like, she was phenomenal. So I did actually reach out to her to ask her opinion about the Channel 7 report, especially because they started bringing out the race card. And like we didn't even bring it up. Like, it just seems they're always trying, well, let's bring up the race card, let's bring up the sexist card. I think
what's happened is they've seen that this is a hot topic. especially about sexism or racism or whatever it is in Parliament. And they've gone, great, we've got
A member of
Charles,
Parliament.
a member of Parliament. We've got you guys talking about a woman that's written an article about men.
Yeah.
Let's just put this together and see if we can make soup.
Yeah. So the other thing is with this article that was written, like, I have to admit, I took a lot of issue with it. I didn't think it was a very well written article. And since the article, I've actually gone and tried to hunt down some of the other stuff that she writes. And I'd be very, very curious to see if someone else wrote the article and then put her name to it. So that's something I'd like to ask her.
Again, she probably wrote maybe 5 pages and they took pieces of it and published that.
I'm not sure because when I was reading the full article, it is definitely a full article. Like there's start, there's middle, there's an end. So I think it was a full article. But you know, when someone writes like books, like I read quite a bit. Robert Jordan's an amazing author. So you can read all his books. It's got the same style through all his books. So the style of her past writings to the style of this one, I felt there was a clear difference. And so, but the other thing that I'm really curious about is for a society where everyone is supposed to be treated equally and for them to turn around and really attack this guy. And because if I turn around and went to my wife, oh, you're getting fat, I want you to stop eating me, I would get absolutely crucified. Oh, how dare you do that? Because actually under the current legislation for domestic violence, that is actually a form of domestic violence. So the question has to be asked, if she did write this article, now this is a major if she did write this article and if it did actually happen, because the other thing, she could have been writing it to prove a point. So because it's in the opinion piece, it's not in the actual news piece. So this could have been just an article to raise an issue around toxic masculinity. But if this is based on a true event, is this considered a domestic violence situation? And if it is, why isn't Channel 7 taking disciplinary action?
I'll tell you what is toxic masculinity. Jeff Perry attacking you and your radio show on purpose to get you deplatformed, using bits and pieces of your show to try and make a point. So I think that's toxic masculinity. So nothing to do with eating meat or not eating meat.
Well, I'm going to take a different stance on this. I'm going to say thank you, Jeff, because pretty much we couldn't have afforded to pay for the amount of publicity he has given us. And I'm really hopeful this carries through to the station, because I don't blame the station under any situation. I really do hope them well, wish them well, because it's so hard. The level of funding that they get on the community standard levels is minuscule. Like when you have a look at how much money the government's giving to Channel 7 versus how much money the government is giving to these community radio stations. So HFM, 89.7, I think it used to be Channel 44 on the community TV station, all those sort of things. They get absolutely like pennies compared to what else is thrown out there. So
And has this opened more windows of opportunity for you? Like, are you going to pop up now in community TV?
Oh, everywhere I can, to
YouTube,
be honest with you. So
live streams, and then we'll flick over to Joel again. Joel, are you on YouTube? Can we watch your channel?
Yeah, I'm still around, and this is
Perfect.
what we've just witnessed reminds me of what I copped on YouTube when I lost 10,000 subscribers because I hit a few too many snags. But I am still on YouTube. I have a substantial following still. I think 3,500 last I checked. And Facebook is the place where I post the most stuff, and also Instagram. Videos, yeah.
We've just got a technical difficulty again, but
bandwidth will catch up. So it's...
And you're on Facebook as well, Joel, by the way, so that we can follow you?
Yeah, Facebook's probably the place that I use the most commentary there. And there's a ton of things, as you know, there's a ton of different projects that I'm working across. And most of it will come up on Facebook.
Now, just like me, you've been on the show with Travis Carter on Carter's Corner. Mm-hmm. Do you find this man here sleazy radio, or do you find that he's a feminist or a sexist or a racist, or do you think he's pretty balanced?
A sleazy radio?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the calls that they made on this news report. I didn't experience anything sleazy from Travis or his show. Even
Well,
the producer's quite decent.
I don't know what definition. I don't know what definition they're going off, because I mean, I define, Carl Sandilands one sleazy. What has he done? He's talked about this stuff way more explicitly, in a lot more detail, with being very descriptive. He's even brought multiple naked men and women into the actual filming room, filmed it, put it up, and they've made out on there while they're naked. I mean, so you tell them. I don't know what their definition of sleazy is, because we're nowhere near that, that's for sure. We were just talking about grooming, basically. There's no problem if a woman says, I prefer a man that takes care of himself and, stays well groomed. Whereas if you say it about a woman, it's like, oh, no, you can't have preferences. What's next? Are you going to say that I have to, if I don't find a trans person attractive, you're going to come after me? Let's go. I think the majority of people are on my side, just like with the other thing.
Yeah, I definitely don't find a trans person attractive. I'm straight.
Cancelled.
That's just my personal view.
So it'll be sad if you get cancelled, Bats.
Yeah, that's right. They'll look for ways to cancel me because the trans people are upset. Did you see that video that we shared about the policeman in Scotland apologising to everybody?
And then he gets to the end and he's apologising for bald people, so because he is bald, he is...
Actually,
yes, no, I have
no.
seen that video.
Did you hear about the story? Was it in Melbourne, the school in Melbourne, where they basically made the boys in the school basically get in front of the assembly and just say to the whole assembly, "I'm sorry for being a man." Basically, I'm sorry for my masculinity.
What?
Yeah, the school came. You've got to look at my Facebook page. This is why you got to follow me, guys. They basically made these male students, get up in front of their assembly and say, "I'm sorry," basically, for my masculinity. And they just
sorry, but that's bullying from the school.
Yeah, the outrage was so
entire
severe,
faculty should be removed.
Well, they came out with an apology not long after that, just today.
Sorry, it's not
good enough. Yeah,
that's child abuse. So every single one of them should be investigated for child abuse.
Making boys apologise for being boys.
Like they had nothing to do with it. That's just who they are. Like that's like turning around telling a transgender person or a homosexual person that you can't be homosexual because you're not allowed to. That's not their fault. That's just who they are.
You need to apologise for being who you are.
And if you don't mind me making this point, these feminists, these third wave feminists, because I don't have a problem with the first and second wave feminists. No worries. First wave, vote. Second wave, the right to work. Third wave, you guys went off the edge. You guys are crazy. Because on one hand, you say, no, you can't open that door for me courteously. I can open myself. I don't need no man. I don't want you to be, polite. And then on the other side, you've got these same women later on saying, where did all the good men go? It's like, what do you think's going to happen if you drive them underground? And this is what I believe. There are a ton of things that are coming down on men nowadays, including that. What does that lead to? Well, I just turned 24 recently. Within 6 months of me leaving school, 3 of my friends tried to commit suicide. One of them, unfortunately, succeeded. His name was Stuart Kelly. He was the brother of unfortunately, the boy that got King hit in King's Cross. And the amount of misattention given to mental health that people don't give anymore is ridiculous. Bettina Arndt has covered this extensively, and we are not listening to really intelligent advice she's been giving on this. We're not helping men in the right way, young boys and young men in the right way needed. And masculinity is very important. Masculinity is not the problem. A lack of masculinity is the problem. And until feminists get that, we're screwed. Basically, our society is screwed. And that's why I have those images in the background from the last podcast, basically showing that, because we're in a situation where weak men will create a weak society and the collapse of society. And that's just the cycle of empire. And that's why it's not this stuff's not surprising. Just read a history book. But this is the problem. They don't teach history anymore. And so we've got to do it ourselves.
We don't need men to apologise for their masculinity. That's as ridiculous as saying women need to apologise for their femininity.
So
it's just absolutely absurd.
Okay.
We need a good balance of both healthy women, healthy men, because let's not forget that's how you have healthy people.
Okay, so I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here, and this irks me to no end, and it really, really does. And you know what I'm going to say? It shits me to tears. It absolutely pisses me off. They're always going on, we've got to stop discriminating against people. We've got to treat everyone equally. We have to be fair to everyone. But the moment you start putting labels on people, you start separating people. You start causing that divide. So, and Denzel Washington did a really good post about this during the Black Lives Matter protest. The moment you start reporting a corrupt white cop kills innocent black man or whatever, you've made that divide. You're reporting the news, but you're making that divide and you're making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And what's going to happen? There's always going to be that subconscious them versus us mentality. And so if you keep putting those labels on people which aren't needed, you're going to create hate. You don't create racism. You don't create sexism. You don't create discrimination, because it's just natural. That's who we are. If you go all the way back, we were literally caveman, or this is how we were designed because you're religious or whatever. It doesn't matter. We were a herd people. It was always us versus them, whether it was blacks versus white, Egyptians versus Arabics, if it was Christians versus Muslims, whatever. There's always been a divide. There's always been that labeling, and there's always been conflict.
So we need to be inclusive.
We need to stop it, and it starts out the media. The media needs to stop reporting on this versus them. That mentality in the media needs to stop. And one of the things I really was proud about Carter's Corner is the amount of times we tried to fight the label narrative. Every time they started saying, this person from this community attacked this person or something like this happened, it's like, no, we need to stop it. It does not matter. So if someone breaks into someone's house, beats up a little old lady and takes her life savings, I don't care whether the person's white, black, blue, green, whatever. It doesn't matter. A person has committed an atrocity. They need to be treated as such. Yeah. Same as if a banker does steal some money, right, the person goes to jail and they get treated exactly the same regardless of wherever you're from. It doesn't matter. Let's take this over into immigration policies, because I'm talking to two people who descendancy isn't Australian. So I understand your
immigrants.
So Egyptian from memory, and we've got Lebanon for your job. Yep. So we've got
Lebanese and Syrian, and this is the point. And this is the point. What we saw Syria, a Syrian man commit a crime in the US, didn't we?
Yep. So
recently,
what does it matter where he's from? Why isn't it a man committed a crime and treat him equally? Doesn't matter who he is or where he's from. And it comes to like the welfare, and it comes down to community grants all the way through our political system. So I shouldn't say I've got it. My wife's got a set of units that we were putting up for emergency accommodation. They got absolutely destroyed. And so we were doing the repairs, and we went out and we asked the government, is there any grants that we can do to set these emergency accommodations up? They turned around, great, is it for women? And if it was for women, they were going to offer us $300,000 to repair and manage these units. I said, no, I'm planning to make it men's emergency accommodation because there's nothing out there. No, we couldn't get a brass razoo. There was absolutely no help from the government. There was no community grants for men's emergency accommodation. So, again, I was talking to the local police up there. They were saying that there's instructions from, and this is direct quote from the local Geraldton police, that if a Aboriginal child under the age of 12 commits a crime, they do not pursue, they do not arrest the kid, they take absolutely no action. But if it was a white kid, they'll arrest the kid and chase the parents for damage. And apparently that was instructions from Quigley. So the problem lies not just in the media, it also lies within the political system, because they're labelling everyone. And you've got to remember, politics is a rule book in which everything is done by.
Yeah.
So if you want the media to change, if you want society to change, you've got to change the politicians first. And that's why it's really, really important.
They both feed each other.
Yeah.
We've seen that recently.
It's a very, very savage cycle, and it needs to stop. And one of the roles of the opposition is to call the government on this. And WA is in a really bad spot because we do not have an opposition.
Yeah, so and the final piece to all of that as well, and we can't forget this is technology, and that is what social media is doing to us. It is tearing us apart. People do not understand that if you want to get traction on a post, You need to be wild. You need to be crazy. It is a breeding place, a breeding zone for tribalism. Tribalism always wins. That's what Peter Hitchens said. And it's so true. And that's what we're seeing from the media, from the politicians. And social media is not helping at all.
So I've just noticed the time. It is 6:01. So I really want to see what Channel 7 says on the news tonight about us. So
no worries.
Can you play the hit piece again from the top?
You know what? Hey, Joel, do you mind chucking the hit piece on from the top, and we'll run it all the way through, and then we'll probably call it a day after that one.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that for everyone.
Oh, God, I love those hats.
Good evening. A member of WA's Parliament is under fire for racist and sexist rants on a radio broadcast partly funded by ratepayers.
West Australian Party MP Charles Smith made offensive remarks about the Qantas boss and a female journalist. Jeff Parry has this exclusive report.
Where's the bullshit button?
Lee's Radio.
Obviously, we're on 89.7 FM.
MP Charles Smith is a regular on a weekly program on Northern Suburbs Radio 89.7 FM, hosted by former One Nation candidate Travis Carter. Andrea Takaji became a regular when the Liberal Party dumped her over her views 5G causes coronavirus. On Tuesday night, Mr Smith and another guest took West Australian newspaper Indigenous reporter Rangi Harini to task over a column she wrote that linked masculinity to eating meat.
This woman is demonstrating what we're now seeing from these neo-feminists, right? These extremists.
Another guest, Joel Jamal, who was kicked off YouTube and Facebook earlier this year, accused the journalist of dictating to Indigenous people.
Yes, who are you to tell them they can't eat the meat?
Travis Carter gives airtime to a range of conspiracy theorists. Last year, he repeatedly referred to Qantas boss Alan Joyce as anal Joyce.
Good for him. I'm good there.
So it's you that said it, not Charles.
Yeah. So they just admitted it. That
in Tuesday's
that
program,
Charles
they got down to discussing women and masculinity.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I think real men, they just want to know what you want to eat.
And
real men
okay.
know
Be a
what
man
to
and
eat.
be proud to be a man.
Hey, Joel, can you just quickly pause it for
Women
us?
love that.
Because I was laughing there.
I
And because this is a prime example where cutting videos at certain points creates a totally different story. So the reason I was laughing on that one, me and my wife have massive... So after that, we went to a discussion where there's an actual restaurant in America where if you go up to the counter and you go to your partner, hey, do you want something to eat? And they say, no, I'm not hungry. They'll automatically add a couple of chicken wings and a few chips on the side because they know the moment you sit down, they're going to start eating half your food. And I don't know about you guys, but I order okay, I'm hungry. I want a double quarter pounder meal deal. Macca's, I'd love some sponsorship, by the way. So, I want a couple double quarter pounder meal deal, large chips and coffee frappe.
Is that from Macca's or is
it's
Hungry
Macca's.
Jack's?
No.
Oh, okay. It's been that many years. I've not eaten either.
They both taste like cardboard anyway. So, you order this is how much I want to eat, and this is your order, and then all of a sudden they take about 30% away, and then you finish your meal and you're still hungry, and it's like, and it's so frustrating. You think, a lot of these guys have been married, 10, 15, 20 years. So it's such a common problem that they actually go out and they've taken action to do this. And so he's intentionally cut it just after I laughed because it's such a personal thing for me and my wife. We have this argument all the time. So now I always add a quarter pounder cheeseburger if we go to Macca's or something like that. We always add that little bit extra for her, even though she's not hungry.
It's such a meme. Like everyone that's had a girlfriend or been in a partnership of some sort, gotten married, they know this. It's a thing, and it's there's nothing wrong with it. It's just funny. It's hilarious, and that's what it was. It was a joke. It was a tongue-in-cheek moment. You could literally be driving in the car. The amount of people that can, connect with this idea. You're driving in the car with your partner. You're on the wheel. You're trying to work out. Okay, are you hungry? Yeah, she said she's hungry. Okay. You start to list 40 different restaurants, one by one, and you're like, and she's like, no, I don't really feel like that. Oh, no, maybe not tonight. And then you're like, hang on, what about this one? This is your favorite. Do you want this one? It's like, nah. And that is the dilemma, and it's hilarious. It's a real meme, and the amount of TikToks I've seen of it is hilarious. But the fact that they're like, oh, this is a sexist remark because he's saying that women don't know where they want to eat. It's like, how did you get from there to there? It's a joke. It's like fact-checking a joke. What are you doing? Like,
and that's why
sense of humor.
And that's why I said I've got to be really careful on this little segment, because I honestly don't think Jeff Parry and Channel 7 have a sense of humour at all, because, you know, we joke around about absolutely everything on this show.
People want to be offended. They'll be offended by anything.
We
you
even...
Count 1, 2, 3, 4, and they'll get offended. Because
why didn't you say 5? We even have a disclaimer at the start of the show saying, like, we're not interested in cancel culture. That we can put that back on the shelf where it came from. So there's even a disclaimer, like, if you're easily offended, don't listen to the show, because we talk about everything. Everything's on the table. We do not, and that's the thing. Like, the reason they kicked us out, they were saying that I should have been controlling what Joel and Charles said as guests on the show. Like, I'll wear my comments about Alan Joyce. I think the guy is an ass. I think what he did was disgusting. Firing 3,000 people to send the work offshore. Like, we were in the start of a pandemic. Like, we knew our economy was going to get absolutely smashed. Early indications between The Guardian and the ABC, they were saying that there was expected to be anywhere between 15 to 20% unemployment rate and a 66% participation rate within the employment industry. So that's like, in WA alone, about 800,000 people without a job. So if you look at the compensation clause in the State Emergency Act, that's a payout of $34 to $38 billion in the first 12 months alone. So have you noticed how Mark McGowan doesn't want to talk about the compensation and all the policies that the acts that he's using to shut down the borders and all that sort of stuff? He doesn't want to talk about it. And when I spoke to Fran Logan's office about it, his staff, and you got to remember, these guys have 5, 6, 7 people to actually look at legislation and say, okay, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. And they didn't even know it was in there. So the amount of waste from the government is shocking. But going back to this point, it's like, it's such a joke, and Channel 7 just do not have I don't think they've got funny bones, to be honest with you.
No, for jokes.
Yeah, anyway, so sorry for cutting it out. I just thought it was really, really funny, and it was really appropriate for my wife, and so I thought I'd chuck it in, and it was just hilarious. It was a funny joke. I enjoyed it. So what about Channel 7?
I'll finish it off.
Real women love that. Not these feminists.
I mean, I prefer my women shaved. I don't know about you guys.
89.7 works out of here at the ECU campus at Joondalup. Its funding comes from the federal government and ratepayers' money. 3 city councils, Stirling, Wanneroo and Joondalup, tip in $30,000 between them. A radio station spokesperson said the comments don't reflect the views of 89.7 and they're considering disciplinary action. Jeff Parry.
Considering? We were fired. I don't want to say fired because...
You're volunteers, right?
Yeah, we're volunteers. So do we think we did anything wrong? No, I don't think so. So
if you haven't done anything wrong, do not apologize.
That is your minute.
And then wait 2 weeks, and it'll go away.
Terry Backler.
I'm sorry, that's just a classic. And he's so right. Like the political cycle, give it 2 weeks. Christian Porter won't be news in I reckon, a week. That will disappear.
No, I don't think they're going to drop the bone on that. That's different. That is different. Yeah. That's a different beast
they're already hassling other people about it. So it's already sort of going into the background. Have a look at when Charles Smith left the One Nation Party. Like, oh, my God, headline news. And then, seriously, within 6 hours, he was on the back burner again.
How many mistakes does ScoMo do that gets dropped within less than 2 weeks?
Well, during the bushfires, when people were actually getting burnt alive and animals were getting massacred because of the fires and just the millions and millions of dollars worth of damage that was being done, he was over in Hawaii on holidays, and he was doing absolutely jack about it. And yet, look, no one talked about it anymore.
During this pandemic as well.
You know, a lot of that
people do. Some people still remember that, and some people still remember the Coles bags.
Yep.
If you remember.
So it's oh yeah, that's another one I totally forgot about, the banning of plastic bags. So maybe
but this is the thing though. This is the thing with some people, they did do something wrong, and that's the problem. It won't just go away in 2 weeks. And the media, what they're doing is they're trying to find the weak spot and find the spot that actually makes its mark, because that will stay, and that's the point. Don't do something wrong. And that's why, if I made a very racist comment about the Aboriginal people, who I have enormous respect for, then it's not going to go away, guys. And I recognize that, and that's why I don't say anything outrageous that I don't believe. And this is the thing, though. But this is the thing. I do not respect Jeff for punching down, and that's why I keep saying it. Because there have been people that have made accusations about friends of mine, like Romeo Georges, who's defended me against this segment. There have been people that have said that, the craziest things, the craziest conspiracy theories, that his dad, who's passed away, Rick, by the way, so it's a soft subject, his dad was like a Freemason. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? But that person that made that comment is a smaller channel than mine. I did not call them out. I did not criticize them, but I did it generically because I have that respect. I do not punch down. Instead, I punch up at the mainstream media, at the politicians, at anyone that's got a larger following than me. There's a difference. So we've got Jeff over here who's basically got no moral integrity, and he doesn't know what it means to be in the media. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Going after a local channel. Well done. Well done. Excellent work. There was nothing else you could have talked about. Nothing at all. Nothing from the segment we were talking about. Youth suicides. What it means, the impact of fatherlessness in the house. There was nothing there that you could have added a bit of, thought to. No. We were going to take 2 minutes, and that was what we were going to run with.
So, either way, I just think that's... Like, let's put it back to the pub test. What he's done is just massively below the belt. Most sporting venues and all that sort of stuff, that'd be a foul. You'd be out. But Jeff from Channel 7 seems to play on a different set of rules.
Is this going to deter you from doing what you're doing?
Oh, hell no. I'm having an absolute blast. This is so much fun. This is absolutely hilarious. And it's just so much fun. Like, it is absolutely... I never thought I would have this much fun trolling the mainstream media. Like, and it's because... Again, I don't think they have a sense of humour. So I can go out here and make these comments and call them to account.
They don't have a sense of truism either.
Yeah, true.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Don't let humour get in the way of a good story either.
Yeah, so I really want to see the news tonight to see if I make it in again. I'm already, my phone's buzzing off its head, so I think we're in the news again.
You've got some more invitations to be on Channel 7. So, Joel, it's been an absolute pleasure. As always, we look forward to speaking to you again. Is there anything you want to wrap up with?
Not really. So this was actually only supposed to be about a 10-minute stream. I think it's gone for nearly an hour now. So let's wrap this one up. It's been fantastic. Now, Joel, you're new to the circus of West Australian TV, radio, and social media life and all that sort of stuff. So I just want to say thanks for coming on. It's been hilarious. I loved having your feedback. And Bass is also kind of new to the scene. He's been around for about 6 weeks. I've been helping him with his election. It's been awesome having you there. So, again, I just want to thank both of you guys. And the other person who I do want to thank, and you probably heard him a few times today, is actually my producer, Dwayne, who sits behind the camera. He's been phenomenal. He does. And everyone who's helped out. And there's also another lady I want to thank is Elaine. She's been with us from day dot when we were literally going through Perth now. Oh, we read Perth now, so you don't have to, sort of things. And it's always a good source of entertainment.
I think there's a quick reminder that you need to tell Jeff Perry that he needs to live whatever happened in Bali alone.
Yeah, it's like they say, what happens in Bali stays in Bali, apparently.
I will finish with these words before we go any further about Bali. As Gina Carano said, they can't cancel us if we don't let them. Exactly.
So, again, for all the listeners out there, on Joel's channel, please jump over to Carter's Corner. It's Facebook, literally Carter's Corner. On the YouTube, it's Carter's Corner. And likewise with all our listeners. So we actually streamed this to 10 different sites across the internet. So Jeff, Channel 7's been calling us, you've only got 600 followers. And it's like, yeah, my channel's only got 600 followers. But between all the different channels I send to, one's got 40,000, one's got 20,000 on it, one's got 30,000 on it. So even this little segment here, we've sent it to everyone. So we've probably already hit 100,000.
Got more viewers than Jeff Perry.
Not quite. our goal is to get more, so we're working on it. So if you do have, now this is for the people out there, if you do have a channel with a lot of people on there, we want to get a bigger audience than Jeff Parry just to pretty much stick it up his nose. This is shits and giggles, fun and laughter, nothing too serious, but we do hit big issues. It does get controversial, but we will not be cancelled. We are not going anywhere. If we have to, God, we'll record it outside the ABC building.
We'll cover the stuff that needs to be covered that the media isn't covering.
Exactly. And the people who need to be covered, we'll make sure they've got a platform to do it. So please reach out to us, info@traviscarter.com.au or travis@carterscorner.news. We've got a new website coming shortly, so keep an eye out for it, guys.
Well done. Keep doing what you're doing and keep your chin up.
Bass, thank you very much for doing this. It was awesome. And virtual handshake.
See you, John.
Have fun.
I'll see you later. Thanks, guys.
All right. So this has been so much fun. Where's my mouse? I've lost it. All right, let's cut this stream. And to everyone who's been listening, thank you very much.
All righty then.